And Lauren, you know what? Officials say that because so many 11th grade students have been forced to leave their classrooms because of the coronavirus pandemic, it won't be fairly easy. It won't be easy for them to fairly assess their grades or their test scores. So that's why experts say admissions counselors will now be looking at student stories instead of their stats. Getting into college is a numbers game.
But there is definitely a 180 turn going on.
You have to factor in the number of applications, open spots, GPAs, SATs, and ACTs that typically determine your fate. But it could be a new set of numbers that decide if you're in or out.
In a 650-word essay is going to be way more powerful than a perfect SAT score or a perfect GPA.
Neha Gupta is with College Shortcuts. It's a program that helps students navigate the admissions process.
A lot of the colleges know that there's not going to be a standardized way after COVID-19 on how the 11th grade grades are going to all pan out.
She says with the coronavirus crisis, closing classrooms, canceling tests, and forcing students to sit at home, she says that traditional numbers for admissions would be skewed. That's why for the first time ever, she says more colleges will be focused on student stories instead of their stats.
That they're going to have to look at the human aspect, meaning the values, the character, why they're interested in it, the passion, how that child is going to be a fit. And that's all going to be boiled down to a 650-word essay.
With admissions deadlines for next school year just months away, she says juniors right now should be using this time to separate themselves from the pack.
And those that take this time as an opportunity to do the hard work, they're going to pass with flying colors and get into the college of their dreams.
Gupta says that colleges won't be too rigid to some of the challenges that students face because of the pandemic, but deadlines, she says, won't be pushed back. She calls the changes long overdue.
I think this is going to be a long-term change. I think COVID-19 is creating a long-term change in a lot of industries and fields.
All right, so Gupta says that if you do have an opportunity to take an ACT or SAT test, you should do so. Make sure that just to give yourself another chance on boosting your chances of getting in. But she says because of the pandemic, a number of those testing dates have been canceled. We're live tonight out of UMKC. I'm Jonathan McCall, Fox 4 News.
After the coronavirus, some students are wondering what their college experience will look like this fall, or if they'll be able to return to campus at all. The coronavirus could end up costing colleges and universities billions of dollars in lost revenue. And Nicole D'Antonio joining us live now with how this could affect the next school year, Nicole.
Well, Annie, one big concern is how this could impact enrollment this upcoming school year. Another question a lot of people have, could we see more colleges and universities permanently close their doors? Well, the group American Council on Education says they do expect to see a 15% drop in enrollment. And we spoke with an expert, the founder of the group College Shortcuts, who says this number really isn't surprising.
If you look at the fact that, there's a large percentage of students that come internationally to school here, assuming that many of those kids won't be coming back, that is where a lot of that statistic is coming from.
Neha Gupta started this group College Shortcuts more than 15 years ago. Now, she told me we could also see more students wanting to stay closer to home or attending a less expensive school next year. But she says there's still a large number of students who will still be striving to attend their dream school. She says it's a big reason that their phone offices have been ringing nonstop 7 days a week. And the number one question that they actually get asked is how to stand out on an application, especially now that so many schools are no longer requiring SAT testing.
We've had the entire UC system that takes upwards of 200,000 students state they're going test optional this year. That's a very big deal. There's a complete overhaul happening, and I'm actually very happy about it because I do believe that students should be graded on who they are, the qualities of who they are, what character they have, what type of person they are, versus just a test they took for 3 hours on a Saturday morning.
So I love this advice. She says that the story, the personal story, is so much more important than the statistic this year. And that's because of more schools putting a greater emphasis on the college essay, right? So she says it's important to use this time to really focus on what you're deeply passionate about.
It is all about taking this time to figure out what you're going to do to stand out in the time that you have right now. We're living in a time where we have internet, we have a phone that is unbelievable, that is able to, connect you with so many people. You can make a difference.
So one more thing to think about here. She said for these college seniors, a lot of them are actually having to choose a school without actually being able to physically attend the campus to go on a college campus tour. So a lot of people being impacted by this, but guys, just a lot of things to think about. And she said the most important thing is just to get a head start on all of this.
Parents and caregivers of high school juniors and seniors are especially concerned about what's next for students with in-person college visits and college fairs halted by school closures stemming from COVID-19. I recently spoke from the comfort of my own living room with the founder of College Shortcuts on what to do and what to keep in mind. It's definitely a subject that's top of mind for so many. What's next when it comes to college, especially for our rising seniors heading in that direction, and even for juniors looking to start exploring campuses? We're talking with Neha Gupta. She's the founder of College Shortcuts. Neha, it's great to see you this morning.
Absolutely, great to see you as well.
This is one of those conversations that really came to the surface pretty quickly. Schools in Virginia were closed and then closed for the full school year. So a lot of parents, guardians, and caregivers were left wondering what's next, especially for those rising students.
Yes, we're seeing across the nation a lot of schools are closing, and it is affecting a lot of students, especially in the high school grades, because they were expecting to finish off their years very strong and ensure, they knew everything for each subject since so many finals are coming up. So a lot of students right now are confused and stressed and worried about what the next year holds. But what we found at College Shortcuts and with everyone that we're working with, that it's not just about focusing on what's happening from this week to next week. It's about looking at things from a long-term vision and planning. Most of these students still have the dream of going to college. They want that college experience, and we want that for them. And they want to study their passions. So we are still going full steam ahead with our students. They're working on their essays. They're getting their applications together because applications are opening end of July and August 1st. So that's only in a few months. If you look at it, we're already in April.
And I think one of those things, it's not just a one-way conversation, right? Families, parents, students, all concerned about the next step with college. But I think colleges and universities and higher education is wondering, how do we connect with these students? And how are we having a barometer of maybe where they were? Some final grades weren't given. Maybe SATs or ACTs weren't taken.
Absolutely. One of the big issues that most parents are feeling and students will feel through these next few months is the fact that on average across the United States, it's 500 students to one guidance counselor at school. So right now, getting outside help is one of the best ways to ensure success for your child, because now with everything going virtual or schools closed, those counselors are no longer available.
So outside help, maybe in the form of College Shortcuts or other resources.
Absolutely. Getting outside help, because when you can't figure out which college to go to because you didn't visit, getting a consultant to walk you through, figure out exactly based on a myriad of factors of what is the right school for you, figuring out the right fit. This is going to be a big decision for families upcoming in the next few months when they haven't been able to make those decisions. And getting that outside help of people that do this day in and day out can be such service for these families.
Plenty of these campuses are now making arrangements or already had things in the works to allow students and families or prospective students and families to visit virtually.
Yes. So we're seeing, with the rise of technology, the ability to give tours virtually, we're seeing a huge influx of virtual tours. You have to also keep in mind that most recruiters cannot go to college fairs right now. They can't connect with the kids. So they're finding other ways. To me, I believe if students are prepared, they're getting outside help, they're able to be adaptable during this time and be able to live with what the opportunities are, these are the ones that are going to be the most successful. So the colleges are doing everything they can to try to make it as seamless as possible and reduce as much stress as possible. Earlier, you asked me specifically around what colleges are going to do around the way they admit students. Well, this year, a lot of schools and a lot of colleges are going to be going test optional. We already heard the UC system, North Carolina schools. We're going to see a big trickle of a lot of colleges due to the fact that the March, April, and May test dates for SAT and ACT were canceled. So because of that, we're going to see a large influx of students that are going to be able to get in based specifically on their essays that they present, their story, how they pitch themselves to the school, and more about their story versus their stats of their GPA and test scores.
It's interesting to know that, but that presents its own challenges too, because if you did have maybe resources that you were using before leading you up until this point, now it's a new playing field. How do you present yourself well if maybe essay wasn't your strongest suit?
Exactly. We did a review over the last 5 years of 2,000 students and their writing, and we noticed there was an 86% decline in students' writing in the last 5 years. So all these students that thought they could rely on their counselor or maybe their English teacher, they're not going to have that as a resource. So we've been getting calls nonstop at College Shortcuts to book out our consultants and our editing team to help them and make sure they get that outside pair of eyes or former admissions officers that know what these colleges are looking for.
This is definitely the week that a lot of Virginia schools would have been on spring break. And this is historically the time that you would go out and visit campuses. So it is important to make that connection. When you suggest reaching out to resources, is it also important maybe to go ahead and reach out to some of those higher education institutions that you were thinking about or considering?
I always believe that building relationships are a great way to really stand out in the process. And I do feel if students are reaching out to schools, it makes a difference. We had a student recently reach out to multiple schools and get responses, and they were Ivy Leagues that were responding back to her, and giving her great positive feedback. So I do believe these schools are looking for these students. The question is, how are the puzzle pieces going to fit together? And how are families going to be able to do this process in helping their child be able to pitch themselves well? And that's why we've expanded our team. We are doing everything we can to help as much as we can to these families nationwide.
What's the number one thing, in your opinion, for families to keep in mind?
The number one thing to keep in mind is to have a long-term vision and start writing out the timelines during this time. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day news. Even I do it myself. But the most important thing to do is print out some calendars. Look at when your kid is applying to college and understand those timelines aren't moving. Those colleges need your child in those spots. The question is, what is your student going to do to stand out in the essays and resume process of extracurriculars, activities, showing their passion, writing in a way that's really powerful? So the number one thing I would recommend is really understanding the power of getting outside help to help you figure out not only the right college, but also how to package your student in this process.
And getting all of those ducks in a row, so to speak, do give you a little bit of the opportunity to regain some control, and
Yes.
then it might not feel so overwhelming.
Yes, I think right now everyone is feeling a lot of out of control and uncertainty. And I think one of the things that's very helpful is setting up systems and routines. And the last part is having a coach by your side. Having someone virtually that can talk to you, that knows the next steps, can make all the difference in taking that stress and anxiety that's here for everyone and bringing it down and focusing in on what are the things that need to happen to be successful in this process. Many seniors this year that we've worked with are already getting all their acceptances, so they're very excited about their upcoming year of getting into their dream schools. And we want to see that moving forward from generation to generation to come.
Well, Neha Gupta, founder of College Shortcuts, thanks so much for making time for us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. You can learn more about Neha Gupta and the advice she's sharing. Visit collegeshortcuts.com.
Neha Gupta is the CEO of College Shortcuts.
Many colleges have been very clear that their applications are still opening on August 1st.
She says this is not a time for high school juniors or any students to slack off.
there are multiple criteria that colleges look for, and without the SAT as one of their criteria points, it now weighs the resume portion and the essay portion way higher than ever before in the admissions process.
She says this important year hasn't been a waste.
You still had a full semester to show your success. They're going to look at the student from a beautiful, holistic place. What is the student? What is their character? What is their resilience? Who are they as a person?
The AP exams are also changing.
They're going to switch the 3-hour test to a 45-minute test online. So what does that mean? That means a student needs to be studying really hard for that exam.
The spread of coronavirus continues to put things on hold. Here to tell us how students and parents can navigate through college admissions is Neha Gupta, CEO of CollegeShortcuts.com. Neha, do I have that name right?
Yes, you do.
All right, top of the morning to you. Let's talk a little bit about the school year being put on hold. The far-reaching impact as it has to seniors trying to get into college. What's the biggest obstacle that you're encountering right now?
The biggest obstacle we're encountering right now is that high schoolers that are in 11th grade, the juniors, had prepared for the SAT and ACT for the March, April, and May test dates, which have all been canceled. Many of them have no SAT or ACT score when it comes to applying college, and now they're very concerned with the SATs being canceled.
So fascinating. So it's not so much the seniors that are encountering the problems, it's the juniors, because that's when you're doing your SAT work.
Correct. Right now, many colleges are reassessing their admissions process for the first time in this manner, where they may be going test optional. We know the UC system has already decided they're going to go test optional, which means now students need to take the time and focus in on how they're going to make their application stand out with their resume, their extracurriculars, and their essays, because most schools will not be looking at the scores and GPA due to all the cancellations that have happened due to coronavirus.
That's fascinating. So let's expand on that. How do you increase your non-SAT work to make your application more attractive when school's not in session and the economy shut down? What can you do that can make you stand out amongst all the people who are trying to do the very same thing?
Absolutely. I would say one of the big things for students is to remember to have a clear vision of what you wanted to do before the coronavirus. That's number one. The second is really finding ways to explore your passion online. We're living in a world where we basically have a high-powered computer in our pocket with our iPhones and so forth. So there are so many ways to utilize the internet, study things, learn things, and still take what we've done offline but translate it online in today's world and continue to do these extracurricular activities, because it is important outside of just normal schoolwork to show these are the things I love doing, these are the interests that I have, and still to come off as a well-rounded student during this time. So from my perspective, it really is about translating the offline to online, and then also realizing that you're a human, and in the admissions process, they're now going to be looking at the essays to see your character, your values, who you are. And so students' writing and ability to stand out in their essays is going to be more crucial than ever in the history of admission.
All right. So, Neha, before we let you go, where can people find you and your company?
Absolutely. They can find us at CollegeShortcuts.com and also on Facebook. They'll learn about our latest free webinars that we're doing to serve the community as much as possible at Facebook.com. And then you type in College Shortcuts for our page.
Hey, thanks for your insight. And I know it's turned a lot of people's worlds upside down, but you still have to do the work, and you still have to find a creative way to make your application stand out. We appreciate the tips.
Absolutely.
Colleges are making some big changes in the admissions process because of the coronavirus outbreak. We've seen virtual campus tours, changes to requirements. Founder of College Shortcuts, Neha Gupta, is joining us live this morning. Good morning, Neha.
Good morning to you.
So I love your site. You have a line on there that says something like, we help your unicorns shine. The
Yes.
unicorns have been pent up at home, and they are at this point, as we get closer to May, getting worried about how this is going to play out. So what are you advising these, especially these high school seniors, in terms of college for next year?
What I advise is don't cancel your dreams, unicorns. This is the time to use your time wisely. It's an unprecedented time where all of these students aren't going to sports, activities, have tons of homework. And this is a time where they can actually work on their essays and their applications. Deadlines are not getting moved back, and applications open August 1st. So our recommendation is getting the outside help you need to create that unique angle and that story to really stand out since the requirements have changed.
You know, the unicorn parents are also going through some challenging times too, and a lot of them are wondering what their own personal finances are going to look like heading into the next school year. What are your thoughts for them?
One of the things that we do at College Shortcuts is we help students create compelling applications. And when they do that, we see students get so much scholarship. So it really is about looking at your financial aid situation when it comes to applying to college, but also the merit-based scholarships. On our website, we even have a free scholarship guide when people sign up for our newsletter so that we understand and we're very sensitive to what's happening from a financial perspective for parents to help these kids get the scholarships they need.
You know, it's interesting. All of these kids who are heading off to college are going to start that very defining chapter of their life with a very unique and shared experience. How do you see that affecting the class of, what would it be, 24, 25? What do you see that doing to them?
I think one of the big things is that I think from my perspective, this virus is bringing us together in a lot of ways. So I think that these students are going to have a shared experience. They're going to be more in the present moment. They're going to be able to share their experiences and be able to come closer. And I think there's going to be a different way of approaching other people now after this experience. So I do think it's going to bring these students together because they have such an interesting shared experience that we've never seen before.
We only have 30 seconds, but do you have a quick tip for people who are still writing essays? And I'm sure a lot of kids are going to be figuring out a way to work coronavirus into an essay. A quick tip on that.
I would recommend actually not writing about the virus in the essay because that would be what most people are doing. So we're actually offering a free discovery call for families right now on our site to really learn the tips they need to make sure that their child's taken care of during this process.
All right. Well, thank you, Neha. Appreciate it. The site, again, is called College Shortcuts, and we appreciate the advice this morning. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our side tonight, thinking about those who are trying to plan the next step in their life. This is the time of year when a lot of high school seniors are making college choices, while those a little younger are starting to get ready for the application process. Kind of tough to do some of these things when testing is being canceled and campuses are closed. We have some advice for you tonight from academic expert Neha Gupta, who is the founder of College Shortcuts. And I started our conversation by asking, what is her biggest concern for high schoolers right now?
My biggest concern for the high school seniors is that they're having to make a decision, but yet they haven't been able to visit the college. So many students are trying to apply to college as well for the 11th graders, and they aren't able to do their visits either. So there's a lack of being able to visit campuses and really get a sense of the university.
We're also seeing some universities make some changes when it comes to the standardized testing.
Yes, we've already seen a lot of schools are canceling and saying test optional for the SAT and ACT. Since the College Board has decided that they're not going to do any tests, they currently do have June as testing dates. So that means that juniors can still possibly take it, which means they should be still preparing if they do have that option. But otherwise, it also means that they're going to be looking at the essays and the resume and all the other parts of the application outside of just the scores.
How do you stay focused right now? Because you're at home, everything is just sort of, been thrown on its head right now.
I think one of the big things to note is that over a month and a half ago, these students still had a vision and a plan. Applications are still opening August 1st. And so it's all about creating a plan, printing out calendars, knowing when the deadlines are, and start working on your essays right now. We know that a lot of summer programs are canceled, so now is the time because all the essay prompts are going to stay the same. So staying ahead of the game and being proactive is going to be the most important thing.
You're not sitting in a classroom like you normally are, but you're at home and sort of having to self-guide, which on some level to me almost kind of prepares you for college because that's what you're going to be dealing with once you get there, that you have to sort of do it on your own.
It's very true. I think, motivation, drive, time management skills, these are the things that students are going to learn. And it's something that I have been very passionate about. I love these types of things because I believe these types of skills are so powerful. And all of our nerds, as we call them at College Shortcuts, are helping these kids to learn these soft skills that can make all the difference, not just in college, but even in the future as well for these kids.
Neha Gupta is the founder of College Shortcuts. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
What do you think? Let us know. Use the hashtag OYSTonight on Twitter or email askjamie@WBTV.com.
It can be tough to see the rebound that is coming to Tampa Bay, but it's going to happen. And we are committed to bringing you not just the daily numbers, which, let's be honest, can be hard to hear sometimes, but also the local stories of how folks are picking themselves up and moving forward. Tonight, we're introducing you to a local high school senior determined to prepare for his college entrance exam and get a scholarship. As Mary O'Connell shows us, all students can learn from how he's doing this.
His senior year of high school didn't turn out as planned.
I had a lot of high expectations for this year.
The coronavirus outbreak changing Gio Rivera's high school ending. Now he fears the health crisis might impact his chance at college scholarships.
I was kind of banking on these last attempts to fully qualify for Bright Futures.
The Florida Bright Futures Scholarship Program. Qualifying students can get awards covering up to 100% of tuition and fees if enrolling at an eligible Florida institution. Students need to meet certain GPA, service hours, and college entrance exam requirements by high school graduation, but scores from ACT and SAT tests taken through June 30th are accepted. However, future test dates are being canceled.
With this corona thing and everything being canceled, chances are he won't qualify.
The SAT May and June tests aren't happening because of the crisis. The ACT says it will offer tests in June and July as CDC guidelines allow. College Shortcuts founder Neha Gupta says while scholarships may be a wait-and-see game, college admissions will be about the story, not just the stats.
There's so many other ways to stand out in the admissions process, from the essays, the resume, how you package yourself, your passion, and showing really who you are.
The ACT and SAT are looking at online testing for later this year. The Florida Department of Education told us it's aware of test cancellations. It says the impact on scholarship eligibility requirements is being looked at. The Riveras hope those requirements soon change to benefit students.
To not be allotted scholarship funds to take themselves to another level when it comes to schooling, it would be sad.
And the state will keep finding ways to fund kids' futures. In Tampa, Mary O'Connell, ABC Action News.